Hello and thank you for joining us as we kick off our one-to-one interviews with parliamentary candidates across Warrington North and Warrington South. Today we're joined by Cllr Ryan Bate, who's standing for the Lib Dems in Warrington South. Ryan, first I just want to start a hugely important day, so important to remember the sacrifices made by servicemen and women many years ago for Remembrance Sunday. Where did you spend your morning?
Yes, so as you know, I live in Grappenhall. I'm privileged to represent Grappenhall on the Borough Council, and I spent my morning at the Remembrance Service at St Wilfrid's Church in Grappenhall, where there was a fantastic turnout, hundreds of people of all ages. There were veterans from the Second World War there today, and veterans from all conflicts since then as well. So a very moving ceremony. Reverend Proudfoot did a lovely sermon around the importance of remembering not only the fallen, but remembering the values that we have to stick to, and made a point about a trip she recently went on to Bosnia and saw just 20 or so years ago the terrible situations where very quickly communities which seem harmonious and peaceful can very quickly turn to conflict, and obviously the sad loss of life in Bosnia.
And in terms of your campaign, well into that election campaign now, you're hoping to cause what would be one of the biggest shocks of the general election. How is the campaign going so far?
I think the campaign is going incredibly well. We saw just last Sunday the BBC Lib Dem Warrington South as a three-way marginal, back like we were in 2010. I think the world has moved on massively since the past two general elections, not just the spectre of Brexit hanging over people, but also the fact that many people don't think things are working as they are, and they look at the Labour and Conservative options and they don't think that they are the right choices for them in the future of the country. So I think we've got a great opportunity as the Liberal Democrats in this election, and my job obviously is to go and speak to as many people as possible and convince them that I'm the right choice for Warrington South.
And one thing causing huge amounts of controversy is the Lib Dem stance on Brexit. If it was a Lib Dem government, Brexit would effectively be cancelled. Do you acknowledge, especially with Warrington being a leave town, the anger that stance has caused?
I understand people feeling angry, not just at the Liberal Democrats' revoke policy, but at all kinds of political shenanigans which have gone over the past 3.5 years. Lots of people feel completely unlistened to, and I think the situation is that for the first few months and maybe years after the referendum, it was the 48% who voted Remain who felt that they weren't being listened to, and now it's people on both sides of that divide. And I think the truth is, we now know what Brexit looks like. We didn't know what that looked like 3.5 years ago. And I think we need to move on from that swiftly and realise that the best deal we always had was remaining in the EU. And as for the actual revoke policy, I think we need to remember that that is only in the situation where we would have a Lib Dem majority government. And I know different people will think that is more or less likely than others. And the fact is, you would not want a Lib Dem government negotiating for something which they did not believe in, and that's why we would have to revoke Article 50, in the same way that the SNP would never want to negotiate for remaining in part of the United Kingdom. So we're just sticking to our values, and I think we've been refreshingly clear about that.
And there's every chance of there being a hung parliament following this general election. We could still be in deadlock over Brexit, and there's a prospect we could have a second referendum further down the line. If there was to be a second referendum and Leave were to win that argument again, would you still campaign to Remain, or would then you believe the argument has then ended?
My personal view is that if we have a second referendum solely based on Boris Johnson's deal, or possibly Jeremy Corbyn's deal, heaven forbid, I'm not quite sure what mystical powers of negotiation he thinks he's got with Brussels, but if we had a referendum over a deal, it would have to be we go for that deal or we remain in the European Union, and then we would have to move on from that. If the people chose to go for whichever deal was offered to them, then I would respect that, because it's a very different proposition from what we had in 2016, where all shades of Leave were sold to the population at large, and those 52% who voted Leave definitely didn't all vote for what Boris Johnson is putting on the table.
And you obviously welcomed the Green Party stepping aside in Warrington South last week as part of this Remain Pact. Just some figures from 2015, the Lib Dems secured 5.6% of the vote in the constituency and 5.4% in 2017. Is there still a bit of a fear that voting Lib Dems, I mean on the doorsteps, is there a fear from people that voting Lib Dems would be a bit of a wasted vote and it could play into the hands of the Tories?
Well, I'll just start on when you mentioned Unite to Remain there, which most definitely isn't a pact. It is a project which is the result of months of negotiation between Plaid Cymru, the Greens and the Liberal Democrats, and we've agreed that if we really want to try and have a parliament which leads to the UK remaining in the European Union, then it is adult and sensible for political parties to work together. And that's exactly what's happened in Warrington South and in 59 other constituencies across the country. It absolutely makes sense. And you talked before about a hung parliament being a very real prospect. I think that goes back to a problem with the electoral system, which more and more people in Britain are realising is deeply flawed and is leading to many of the issues which we've experienced over the past decade or so. To come back to your point around whether the Liberal Democrats are a wasted vote or not, if I had a vote for every time somebody said they vote Lib Dem but they were worried about it, then I would very much be sailing home probably as the next MP for Warrington South. When I've been out canvassing, there is a very, very clear number of people who are voting Liberal Democrat, which is wonderful for a combination of national issues and my local record. There are some people who can't vote Lib Dem over Brexit. In fact, there are some people who, despite being Leavers, are voting Liberal Democrat because of my local record, which is wonderful, and I appreciate that support. What we're not seeing is many people clearly coming to the door telling us they want to vote for the other two parties. There are lots of people who are undecided, but when I'm knocking on doors, people are telling me that they're supporting me or that I'm the most likely person to receive their vote. So if everybody who says they're going to vote for me or wants to vote for me actually does that and does not fall into the trap of listening to the other two parties, who are bound to say these scaremongering Project Fear, you vote for the Lib Dems and you either get a Johnson or a Corbyn government. You vote Liberal Democrat and you'll get a Lib Dem MP, and who knows, you might have Joe Swinson as Prime Minister.
Obviously, it's been labelled as the Brexit election, but as a borough councillor in Warrington, you've raised your profile, particularly on issues such as protecting the green belt and green spaces in Warrington South. Do you think local issues such as the green belt, such as traffic, health, education, still have a role to play in this election aside from Brexit?
They absolutely do, because what my point is, as a borough councillor, I am privileged to be able to speak on behalf of the people I represent, and I stand up for them against developers, for those people with deep pockets. I stand up for the things they care in. And if people send me to Westminster to represent them, then I will do that with an even louder megaphone, although those people who know me well will question why I need one. So it's about bringing those local and those national issues together. A voter asked me, what are you going to do about the local plan if you're the MP? This is a council issue, and quite frankly, the local plan in Warrington is being driven by a national agenda, which we have a planning system in the UK which is far too developer friendly. And I agree we need to build more housing, but that shouldn't give developers carte blanche to do what they like, where they like. And sadly, people with deep pockets seem to be getting a lot of their own way. That's happening in Warrington and across the country. And one of the issues I'd really like to tackle, and I know that the Lib Dem Party agree with me on this, is change the balance of power in the planning system so that communities have more say about where we get those right homes in the right places with the right infrastructure and the right jobs.
And in the council's emerging local plan, more than 7,000 homes earmarked for green belt land. Obviously, the publication has been pushed back now till 2020. Do you believe realistically the 7,000 plus homes earmarked for green belt can realistically be brought down?
Was it ended? Yeah, absolutely. We've got to bring it down, and I think the things I've heard about why the local plan is pushed back is because there are serious question marks about whether it's actually feasible. And I think what we've got to remember is the National Planning Policy Framework does not take into account Warrington's unique geographical restrictions and features. We have a river through the middle of the town, we have at least 3 canals which are crisscrossing our borough as a whole, and we've got the box of the motorways around us. So it's not that simple to say let's build 7,000 houses in the green belt or even 14,000 houses in brownfield sites. We've got to get the right quantity of housing, absolutely. We've got to get the right quantity of economic activity land, but we've got to do that whilst recognising the character of Warrington and the constraints of Warrington. And I don't think the authority or its MP has done a very good job of defending Warrington's uniqueness against the face of this quite soulless and bland National Planning Policy Framework, which even planning professionals say doesn't give them the tools they need and doesn't give communities the tools they need to shape places for the future.
And the £212 million proposed Western Link, another huge issue for Warrington. It's being tipped to ease congestion here and unlock development for land. Do you believe Warrington does need the Western Link to finally sort of ease some of the long-standing congestion issues it has faced?
I've always been of the mind that we need more infrastructure and we need more crossings of our rivers and canals. But when you look at the Western Link, what I see is an ultimate fudge. I see a single carriageway road going from southwest Warrington to West Warrington. Quite how many people in Warrington that is going to benefit, I don't know. I've seen the figures, I'm not convinced by them. And when you look at where that traffic will be dumped in West Warrington, at the foot of Cromwell Avenue, how that is going to ease congestion, I do not know. And I've got lots of friends and supporters who are engineers, who are transport experts, and they say that if they were ever going to deliver that Western Link for the 212 million, then we'd all be living on cloud cuckoo land, and you know, we'd all be absolutely hunky-dory for the rest of the time. It's not deliverable, I don't think it's achievable, and I don't think it will have anywhere near the impact like we need that kind of infrastructure investment to have. And when you look at the costs in terms of more nature reserve and other green spaces which are going to be decimated by that project, I just don't think it's worthwhile. So yes, we need to tackle congestion. I think the Centrelink is a valid way to try and do that. But we need more infrastructure, and we also need to seriously invest in public transport, and we need to make it safe and practical for people to walk and cycle to work, to leisure, and to go about their daily lives. And the local transport plan 4, put forward by the Labour Council, just does not do that.
And we've seen these bar charts used in the Lib Dem leafleting from across the country, not just here in Warrington South. Some have labelled them as being quite misleading. I mean, do you agree with that?
I can understand why people might be irate by them. It's probably the same reason why last Sunday on the Sunday Politics, most of my rivals spent most of their airtime talking about what a waste of time it will be to vote Lib Dem. If that doesn't show you doing something right and they're worried, then you don't know. But I don't think Lib Dem bar charts are any more misleading than telling people that you're going to build 40 hospitals when you're only going to fund 6, and that you're going to give towns 25 million, but not telling towns that they have to bid for it, and actually choosing your list of towns to largely be Tory Lib Dem or Tory Labour marginals. So, you know, when you've got the government of the day happily spending money pushing Facebook ads into marginal seats, and those same parties and politicians are complaining about bar charts, I think it tells you something about values of the politicians, doesn't it?
And so Vince Cable left a lasting impact as leader of the Lib Dems, and obviously Joe Swinson in the position now. How have you found Joe Swinson to be so far in her role as leader?
I think Joe is an incredibly refreshing leader. I think she speaks largely of the positive opportunities that our country has. I think what we are now seeing in this campaign under Joe's leadership is a positive case for remaining in the European Union. We're going to spend that Remain bonus of 50 billion extra coming into the Exchequer as a result of having a stronger economy within Europe. We're going to spend that on tackling mental health, giving it proper parity with physical health. We're going to spend money on extra teachers, 20,000 extra teachers. We're going to introduce free childcare from the point when people go back to work after their 9 months shared parental leave. We're going to tackle the climate emergency by ensuring that we have 80% of our electricity from renewables by 2030 and insulating all low-cost homes by 2025. And of course, we're going to stop Brexit, because that is the key to unlock the door where we can really balance our economy, tackle some of those causes of Brexit and build a brighter future.
You mentioned the B word again then, it's quite difficult not to. I know you've mentioned in the past you have received quite a high level abuse over Brexit. Is that still happening now, or has that sort of eased down in the last few weeks and months?
I don't think that abuse is going to go away. I think what we've got is an incredibly divisive issue, which has been obviously front and centre for the past 3.5 years. And I would like to think that the politicians who ever thought that it was such a big issue that we needed to introduce a referendum in 2016, that they lie awake at night wondering whether that was absolutely right to do or not. But I think, you know, again, to go back to the Remembrance Sunday service from this morning, one of the messages which the vicar gave was that, you know, we need to remember to be civil to each other, we need to remember to be respectful and tolerant of each other, because it is a very swift and slippery slope from going from harmonious democratic communities where people treat each other with respect to having conflict and treating each other with contempt. And I think politicians need to mind their language, and I think we need to treat each other with a degree of respect. And it's quite okay to disagree with people's policies, but that doesn't make the person a bad person. And I don't think politicians going around inciting violence or labelling each other as the enemy or as traitors is the right thing to do. And I hope and pray that we don't see any repetitions of the violence which we saw around the 2016 referendum and the 2017 general election, including, of course, the sad murder of Joe Cox.
And if you were elected as MP, no doubt you would be backing the party time and time again in Parliament, but would you be willing to go against the party if you believed what they were going for was not in the interests of residents in Warrington South?
Well, I'm a lifelong Liberal Democrat. I joined the party when I was 16 and have campaigned for the party consistently over the past decade plus now. And my view is I will be elected as the Member of Parliament for Warrington South. If I just wanted to be a career politician, then I probably chose the wrong party, didn't I? I got into politics and I became a Lib Dem because I believe we have the right plan for Warrington and for the country. And if I thought that plan ever diverged from the best interests of the people of Warrington, then I, of course, would have to support the people who put me into Parliament in the first place. And my message to the people of Warrington, especially at this really divisive time, is regardless of who is elected on the 12th of December, and I hope, and all the signs are suggesting it could be me, we need to remember that we represent the whole of Warrington. And yes, I disagree with many people in Warrington over whether we should stay in the EU or whether we should leave. And we probably disagree on all kinds of other issues, but there's probably more that unites us than divides us. And we need to remember that. And I will be an MP for the whole of Warrington. It's my hometown. I was born here, lived here almost all my life. I've taught in Warrington School for the best part of a decade. I care deeply about the town and all the people, even the ones who might disagree with me, and even the ones who probably think I'm the devil incarnate because of my position on Brexit. So I will be the MP for the whole of Warrington South, and I think we really need to try to bring the communities of Warrington South and the whole country back together after the next election.
And if you weren't elected to Westminster on December the 12th, would that be game over for Ryan Bate's campaign to become an MP?
No, quite frankly, no, because I think I believe deeply in public service, and I believe deeply that the Liberal Democrats have the right plan for Britain's future. So people might want to see the back of me, but I'm going to have to disappoint them. I will carry on fighting on issues which matter to the people of Bradford and the rest of South Warrington. I will still be a councillor, and I will still be hopefully standing for re-election next May should I not be elected to those green benches in December. No, I won't give up, because I believe in public service and I believe that politics has an opportunity to really change people's lives for the better.
And just to finish, I mean, what do you do to take your mind off Brexit, take your mind off politics?
Oh, look around, look, I'm wonderfully campaigning, I've got some decorating to do. I'm very fortunate, I really enjoy what I do, I love what I do. I enjoy speaking to people, finding out all their views, and even if people disagree with me, I enjoy those conversations just as much. I'm deeply motivated by the positive power of politics and public service, and I'm very, very fortunate because it does eat into a lot of my free time. And who knows, you know, if I am successful on the 12th of December, I'll have to have another look at the diary to see where I'm going to squeeze those bike rides and those books in.
A good politician's answer. Thanks for your time today, Ryan. Really appreciate that. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in.